What's happening, YouTube? We're talking college sports in the Deep South, where college football is king and the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, it's K-Stu to go for VernonSpeaksSports. We're mostly talking about Auburn football. Let's go ahead and get the comment section active, as we like to do over here on this channel, where we talk about Auburn football like no other channel does on YouTube. Auburn has an early season SEC matchup against rival Texas A&M. This has developed into a very interesting rivalry for the Auburn Tigers, as historically, up until last year, the away team, oddly enough, which is kind of usually not an advantage in the SEC West, the away team has been the traditional victors. As a matter of fact, Texas A&M joined the SEC conference back in 2012 and really made a huge name for themselves, including giving Auburn a very interesting beatdown, 63-21, during their inauguration into the SEC. Texas A&M missed out on an opportunity to make it to the SEC championship game in that first year, and surprisingly actually beat Alabama that year as well. Definitely came on strong. Finished that season 12-2. That was actually the only double-digit win season for Texas A&M in a 20-year span. So Texas A&M dodged that just by a little bit. As a matter of fact, the victory against Auburn would have all but secured Texas A&M a 10-win season in 2018. Missing that because of to start with, an interception by Noah Igbenogany late in that game put Auburn in a position to where having the opportunity to win that game, took full advantage, had a nice corner route pass in the end zone to Seth Williams to seal the deal, as Auburn salvaged somewhat their season with a 24-20 win over Texas A&M on last season. Fast forward to 2019. By the time these two teams play one another, they will already have played a high-consequence non-conference game, as Auburn opens the season up with Oregon, who has aspirations to win the Pac-12 conference, and rightfully so. Also, Texas A&M opens up the season against they don't open up the season, but will have an early season matchup with the defending national champions Clemson. Actually was one of few games that were close for Clemson in 2018, was that trip that Clemson made to College Station on last season. Arguably Texas A&M had a very, very good opportunity to win that game, only to lose 28-26. So when we look at the Texas A&M Aggies coming off a number 4 recruiting class, if you look up and down their recruiting class, very highly rated players, including offensive tackles, quarterbacks. They definitely have a lot of good things going on as far as the future for Texas A&M. Auburn obviously coming off a number 11 recruiting class, but some very versatile and very valuable players in that recruiting class for the Auburn Tigers. So when we look at Texas A&M has some holes to fill, guys. You're looking at Travion Williams. You will not be able to replace his experience. Travion Williams, I was almost wondering if he was ever going to graduate. Had some nice plays against Auburn last year, including a beautifully designed delayed handoff from Kellen Mond, where he literally was untouched going into the end zone early in that ball game. And that play really was executed largely because Jimbo Fisher understood the lack of athleticism at linebacker for Auburn, and he called a play that got the defense totally off balance. The secondary, as they were traditionally known for taking bad angles in the open field. Easy touchdown for Texas A&M. You would have thought that Texas A&M would have won that game against Auburn last year. Auburn just did not play well at all, only having about 200 yards of production, surrendering 428 yards. That is a game that Texas A&M, in my honest opinion, arguably should have won over Auburn on last season. So I have a lot of reasons for optimism down at College Station. You're talking about a 9-4 record last year, 5-3 in the SEC. I think they should have been 6-2 with the win over Auburn. But either way, Texas A&M have a lot to look forward to. Now, one thing that they're going to have to look at is replacement of the linebacker position. Definitely in a tough situation after losing two very, very productive linebackers in Tyrell Dodson and Ataro Alaka. Alaka led the teams in stops with 79 tackles and 14.5 tackles for a loss. So you're talking about, and when you talk about the rigors of the SEC, you're talking about a lot of production being missed. And then, you talk about this game against Auburn. I think where Auburn will have somewhat of an advantage is their experience factor. You look at guys like Derek Brown, Jeremiah Denson, who have had big game experience on the defense. You also talk about Marlon Davidson. These are going to be some of the factors that will give Auburn a competitive edge in a game like this. This is going to be a huge game in College Station, the SEC opener for both teams. Depending on the outcomes against Oregon and Clemson, probably going to put both teams in a position where this is a must-win game for both teams. But Auburn brings back a different element of offense this year that was missing entirely from last year. So I'm looking at a huge advantage for Auburn as it relates to the experience factor, also having a lot more opportunities play calling wise, and I want to say that Auburn will be a lot more athletic defensively, to where the defensive pressure would be a lot more profound than say a year ago. Now, I'm not quite ready to predict this game score-wise because by the time this game happens, we will have some information on both teams. But if I were to just put it out there at the moment, I just think Auburn has a lot of experience. I think Auburn is, really riding a nice wave of, a very, very successful spring game. So, Auburn will have somewhat of an advantage coming into this game, in my honest opinion. I think Texas A&M obviously will be very talented coming into this season. They have to replace so many guys, though. Jay Sternberger, one of the best tight ends in the nation, he's leaving this year. 48 passes, for 48 catches for 832 yards and 10 touchdowns. Very, very productive, and will have a nice career in the NFL. So, and also I really like the receiver competition that's going on at College Station as well. One guy that I remember vividly was Kendrick Rogers on last season. So either way, looking at this early look at Texas A&M and Auburn, I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. We will have a lot more information as we get closer to this ball game, but just wanted to take an early look at one of my favorite games to watch in the SEC. The rivalry that has developed between Auburn and Texas A&M is just absolutely incredible and intriguing at the same time. Go ahead and comment in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, VernonSpeaksSports TV. Want to give a shout out to the fearless and true gang, War Eagle.